Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, including what was formerly known as Asperger's syndrome, now folded into the broader ASD diagnosis since 2013, is a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by differences in social communication, sensory processing, and repetitive behaviors or intense interests. These traits are understood through modern psychology, with the first clinical descriptions emerging in the 1940s, Leo Kanner for autism and Hans Asperger for the higher functioning variant. Applying these labels retrospectively to historical figures or societies is inherently speculative and anachronistic, as ancient or medieval people lack the diagnostic frameworks we use today. Instead, historians and neurodiversity advocates sometimes identify autistic-like traits, such as hyperfocus, pattern recognition, or social detachment, in historical records to explore how neurodiverse individuals might have been perceived or contributed to societies. The Silk Road, a network of trade routes connecting East Asia to the Mediterranean from roughly the 2nd century BCE to the 14th century CE, facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, religions and technologies across Eurasia. There are no direct historical accounts of autism or Asperger's along these routes, as the concepts didn't exist. However, some modern scholarship speculates on neurodiversity in related contexts. In the Islamic Golden Age, 8th-14th centuries, which overlapped with Silk Road hubs like Baghdad and Samarkand, scholars note potential neurodiverse contributions to science and innovation. For instance, figures like Al-Jahiz, a polymath with described intense focus and sensory sensitivities, have been retrospectively linked to autistic traits, aiding advancements in optics and zoology that spread via trade. This era's emphasis on diverse intellectual pursuits might have integrated neurodiverse individuals into scholarly networks. Prehistoric evidence, dating back 100,000 years, suggests autistic-like traits were valued in hunter-gatherer societies for skills like tool-making or environmental pattern spotting, potentially carrying into early Silk Road nomadic groups. But Silk Road-specific records, e.g. from Chinese, Persian, or Byzantine sources, focus on trade and conflict, not individual neurology. Overall, the history here is reconstructed through a neurodiversity lens, viewing ancient trade as a space where diverse cognitive styles, perhaps including those akin to ASD, could thrive amid cultural mixing. This is highly hypothetical with no empirical evidence linking autism Asperger's traits directly to Silk Road cultural diffusion. Proponents of neurodiversity in history argue that such traits could have enhanced trade and innovation, pattern recognition and navigation. Individuals with strong visual spatial skills, common in ASD, might have excelled in cartography, astronomy, or route memorization, aiding merchants in navigating deserts and mountains. This could indirectly boost the flow of Buddhism, Islam, and technologies like papermaking from China to Europe. Hyperfocus and innovation. Intense interests might have driven specialization in crafts, e.g., silk weaving or metallurgy, fostering economic exchanges that carried philosophies and art across Eurasia. Social adaptation in nomadic networks. Nomadic traders along the routes valued resilience over strict social norms, potentially accommodating neurodiverse people who contributed uniquely without fitting typical roles. Critics note this romanticizes history. Cultural spread was driven more by economics, conquest, and migration than individual neurology. A general study on autistic traits and power suggests such characteristics have historically aided leadership and adaptation in dynamic environments like trade routes, but this is broad speculation. Marco Polo's Travels and Encounters. Marco Polo's Travels, late 13th century, describes wonders of the Mongol Empire and beyond, but contains no references to individuals exhibiting clear autistic or Asperger's traits. Polo's accounts emphasize exotic customs, wealth, and oddities, e.g. in mistaking a rhinoceros for a unicorn due to cultural bias, not perceptual differences. Modern searches yield no scholarly links to autism. Instead, they surface unrelated contemporary stories, like families using a video app named Marco Polo for autistic children. Polo likely encountered diverse people, but his Eurocentric lens filtered observations toward the sensational, not neurodiversity. Did Genghis Khan have Asperger's? Speculation exists but lacks substantiation. Genghis Khan, c. 1162–1227, founder of the Mongol Empire, displayed traits like strategic hyperfocus, social detachment from norms, and intense loyalty systems, sometimes likened to Asperger's in popular psychology. A 2004 BBC article on brilliant minds tied to autism mentions such profiles in leaders, but not Khan specifically. Historians attribute his drive to trauma, e.g. childhood abduction, and step survival, not neurology. Retrospective diagnoses are unreliable without medical evidence, and Khan's DNA, speculatively traced via Y chromosome studies, shows no ASD links. It's a modern myth, akin to unproven claims about figures like Hitler or Orwell. Autism, Asperger's in Mongol, Turkic nomadic societies, and the Mongolian Empire. Historical records from these groups, 13th–15th centuries for the empire, earlier for Turkic nomads, are silent on neurodiversity, focusing on warfare, herding, and shamanism. Nomadic life, mobile, kinship-based, with fluid roles, might have naturally integrated diverse traits. Mongol Empire, society stratified by loyalty and skill, not rigid social conformity. Shamanistic beliefs viewed different minds as spiritually gifted, e.g., for prophecy or endurance in harsh steppes. No evidence of exclusion. Autistic-like focus could aid horsemanship or tactics. The empire's vast reach, from Korea to Hungary, exposed diverse peoples. But chronicles like The Secret History of the Mongols omit disability narratives. Turkic nomadic societies, similar to Mongols with tribal confederations, e.g., Gökturks, 6th–8th centuries, emphasizing mobility and oral traditions. Harsh environments favored adaptive skills like environmental hyper-awareness, potentially valuing neurodiverse contributions without labeling them. Scythian influences, pre-Turkic, suggest respect for eccentric healers, echoing prehistoric patterns. In both, what happened likely involved informal integration, as nomadism prioritized survival over diagnosis. Marginalization, if any, might occur in settled phases post-conquest. Modern approaches in Central Asia and Mongolia. Awareness and support for ASD have grown since the 1990s, but challenges persist: stigma, limited diagnostics, and rural-urban divides. Data is scarce, with underdiagnosis common, e.g., 1–2% prevalence estimates, but likely higher. Region country key challenges support and initiatives. Recent developments: Mongolia low awareness, only 1,000 diagnosed children, 2023, Estai, rural access barriers. Stigma views ASD as spiritual imbalance. Autism Association, caregiver-led advocacy, peer coaching for parents to build coping skills. Centers like Joyful Palace offer therapy and education for disabilities. National Center for Mental Health uses ADOS-2 for early detection. 24. Parent needs study highlights, demand for training. Government pushes inclusive education, Central Asia, e.g., Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan. Sparse research, only 11 studies across 5 countries, 2010–2023. Cultural taboos delay diagnosis. Kazakhstan, 27% high risk in screened kids. Uzbekistan, mothers often misattribute to laziness, NGO-led awareness, e.g., Kabar.Asia campaigns. Kazakhstan's 2016–2022 data shows rising diagnoses from 1.2 to 4.5 per 10,000. Uzbekistan studies explore maternal understanding, shifting attitudes in Kazakhstan via media, emerging research hubs, WHO-backed training, potential for telehealth in remote areas. These efforts reflect a shift toward inclusion, inspired by global neurodiversity movements, but funding and expertise gaps remain. For instance, Mongolia's programs emphasize family empowerment, while Central Asia focuses on epidemiological baselines.